forgot to put up the outside camera here. Here we are today. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, morning. Happy Friday, Danny. It's Friday day. Happy every day, can I? So, nice, beautiful, beautiful sunny day here in Tokyo. They tell us it's going to get a bit cooler later, but it's going to be a beautiful day. Back upstairs. I think the outside camera is going to be noisy today. Can you hear it? Cheep, cheep, cheep. We can't see the nest. They built a nest there, and we can't actually see it anywhere. It's tucked away. Even if I put the camera at a different angle here, we still couldn't see it. So they found a hidden space inside a hidden space. There's no way the crows can get in there. So. Third floor. We're upstairs. It's printing day today. I got an emergency call from Ome and Cameron. So although I've got lots of other stuff I'd like to be doing today, it's printing. And can you tell what it is? Last time the person that did this, they put a kind of bit too much green in here for my taste, but whatever. We're printing some onsens today. I'm the backstop, when everybody else is busy, and there's a desperate need, they've got a bunch of orders and we didn't get it printed in time, I'm the backstop. It's going to take a minute to get set up here. I just roughly threw some pigment in a cup here. I'm not quite sure if it's the right taste. Let's see. Paste is a bit too thick still, I think. Let's see. Yeah, they did really quite a deep green. I wanted a bit more. I want teal. It's got to be a greenish tone. But I'd like it a bit more blue. It's been years since I made it. I don't remember. I don't have the original image here. It's probably kind of morphed over the years. Each printer takes it, and away they go. So. I'm going to print this with a double impression. I'm going to do it light twice. This block has some hard spots in it. I should have really been a bit more careful when I chose it. Not sure, yeah, you can see it right there. See down there where my finger is there, the way the light reflects? And then over here, these are hard spots in the block, and this wood shouldn't really have been chosen for this. When I grabbed this piece of wood for this years ago, I didn't expect or think or understand that it was going to become a big deal. So I should have been a bit more careful with the wood selection, try to find a perfect piece. Well, there are no perfect pieces, but whatever. And that's been a bugbear for all the printers who've tried to do this. And I've given up. There will be, you will be able to see that. That place where that hard spot is. You will be able to see it. I can always do it over again. That's right, another 3-hour stream. We've got a tentative idea for our next 3-hour stream for printing. We talked about it before, Not this print, but something else. But just we're all so, we can't even turn around. It's just no way. So it'll be double. That's a single impression. It'll be double. I think that's more along the color. Maybe a bit more black, can I? We'll see. Someone's asked for a bit more blue. I don't think so. I think we're going to go in the green direction. If anything, I'm going to put yellow in here. There's a bit more black. This is too light. It's going to be a bit more yellow, I think, and a bit more black. We'll see. No registration, just slap it. The other thing too is, I know this is junk copy paper, which is bright white, and that's different from the color we're going to get. So there's no point in doing careful color testing before we start the real paper. This is more like what I want, I think. I think that's closer to what our original was a year or so ago. And this is one thirsty block. It hasn't been used for months and months and months. Okay, let's get moving here. I've got about 80 sheets of paper in here today. It's in, I think, 3 groups of about 20 something, or 26 or 27, I don't know. And I think, looking at it too, it's also a bit on the hard side. This is what you get. I don't have much experience these days at printing. When I did my paper a month ago, when we did that share certificate, I moistened it the night before, and then at printing day it seemed a bit too hard. And I think I've done the same thing. It's a tad on the hard side here today. Experience, experience. Use it or lose it. The whole thing about the moistening, you know, if it's a dry day when you do your moistening, the paper will need more liquid dumped into it, you know. And if you haven't been doing it, there's no standard formula for it. You know, if you watch someone making prints, so you see him do it and moisten the paper, you think, okay, I got it now, I'll just copy that next time I do mine. No, because it's the thickness of the paper, the dryness of the room, if it's raining outside. The bowls of pigment, they stay under the shelves. I know, if we turn the camera, we can see, I don't want to mess up the camera. Suga-san, she's got her drawer like this. She's got her pigments in bowls in a tray inside the drawer, and it's just barely covered, so there's no air drop on them. Ishikawa-san, she's got 2 ways. She's got them in her shelf, and she's got some left on her tray like this, and the ones she's left on her tray, they all have a paper cover, so they don't get dust. Okay, we're going to do a double impression. Let's just try this first. Yeah, we keep them in the bowls, but workshops that use glue, just a minute here. Workshops that use glue in their pigment can't do that because it just becomes rock hard. So they will just try and make as much as they need and then toss it. Why does it look like there's a hole in the floor? There is a hole in the floor. What's the question here? I think this is what the doctor ordered. Did you show? Somewhere on there. paper is a tad hard. Getting the balance on this one with the paste. If there's no paste, it'll be spotty. If there's lots of paste, it'll be good smooth. But we've got lots of lines chopped out of this block, and paste will build up in those. So this is not actually an easy print to make. None of the printers here like it. They all avoid it. They all avoid it. We're doing okay. That hard spot is not showing. I've got a good balance of moisture here. We're okay. The paper is on the hard side, but I'm going to just run it, so it's okay. We can handle this. We can handle this, whatever. Questions? Yesterday, I misbehaved a little bit again. I took another long walk yesterday. There's so much work waiting to be done. It's not sort of like whatever, Cameron's waiting for this, waiting for that. But I took another walk yesterday. I got to get rid of this, I've got my corona belly. I got to get rid of it. So I took another walk. I walked down to Takeshiba yesterday again. Same thing. I timed this because I'm trying to work out a deal for each day's exercise. So I timed it. I went to the Kaminariman, the Koban, and looked at my clock, and it was exactly 8:30. So starting at the Asakusa Kaminariman at 8:30, I timed it as I walked down the river. Dang, 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 dang. And I got to Takeshiba. Takeshiba de sho? I can't even remember the name of the place. The dock, the harbor there. Just after 10 o'clock, 10:05 or so. And I knew there was a water bus coming back at 10:55, so I knew there'd be enough time to get there, and there was more than enough time. So I sat there, got a cup of coffee, and got the water bus on the way back. Took some pictures. Remind me in a minute, I'll show you. It's not just me, I think lots of people. But it's funny though, in the last few days I've been chatting with people about this, and there are people who have lost weight during the pandemic year, But not me. I gained 7 kilograms. I'm not happy about it. So it's the first time in my life I've ever sort of been in a situation where there's more weight than I want. You know, it's never happened to me before, ever. Up to now, just eat whatever, it doesn't make any difference, you know. I'm so slow at this, you know. I know a real master printer would just be blasting through this, you know, just be blasting through. Bang, bang, bang. Camera-san, good morning, good morning. Cameron, good news, good news, good news. Go to Mr. Tester's account. Sorry for the rest of you keep out of this for a minute. Cameron, go to Mr. Tester's account and pull up the invoice that's at the top of his list there. It's the one that had one of these ship to addresses. And when you've got the account pulled up, this is not going to be the permanent thing, this is just for testing. When you've got the account pulled up, the newest one, click the status button. Get back to work. No, it's just the next stage in the software we're developing, and there was good progress made last night. So and he wants to know about this. That's all. So. Very important step last night. Very, very important step. Somebody asked what software we're developing. We're completely rebuilding our order entry system. It's a problem that's been building up for years. The software I originally built for handling order processing and stuff like this, I did what I thought was common sense at the time. I built software for myself on my iMac. And it worked really, really well. Orders come in, process them there, print out the invoices, do the shipping, all that kind of stuff. It worked perfectly. The problem now is that we're trying to do this as a multi-user system. Cameron's in where he is, I'm here, we've got other employees coming in. And the software is a single user system that runs on one computer with its own little database built in. And that's impossible for us now. We distribute the work, we want to spread the work around instead of Cameron having to process all the orders all by himself. So we're changing, I'm rebuilding the system now to be a multi-user, cloud-based system running from a normal database. So we can keep a lot of the same logic. The system was built and designed, but it's all got to be recoded. All I'm saying is it's a test of output printing. So if you go to an invoice, click up that newest invoice, and just click the status button as a test instead of Just click the status button. Look at this, I like this print, you know, honestly I like this print. It's not finished, there's a black block coming on top. The block is still dry, absolutely. And also we're going so slowly here. The block is dry. And also what's happening is the size on this paper is good. The sizing is okay, but a little bit of hair is pulling up and getting left on the block. But after it builds up, I'll be able to show you. But it's a little bit of hair, so as I brush out the next color, there's little tiny balls and pills sometimes form. Cameron, it's okay, right? Okay, good. That is getting on the hard side. That was a thick sheet of paper. That's getting on the hard side. Tell you what, let me do this one. Then let's fiddle here. Let me do some moistening. What I'll leave the first batch. There's, as I said, there's four batches in here. I'll re-moisten the second and third batch, so they'll be ready for me in an hour or so. And I'll work through the first batch. So give me a second. Let me finish this sheet. Now, the breakthrough yesterday was, as I said before, it's been a single user system. So when you need to print an invoice or whatever, the software just says, turn on the printer and prints the invoice. That's okay. But because we're working from a cloud-based system now, the software is all, on a web host somewhere. It's no longer so easy to print. So last night was the first step of figuring out how to print stuff. So it's PDF output. So my software has now learned how to create PDF file and then send the PDF file to either the browser or the user's printer. And this wasn't trivial. Okay, let's do this. Pause this for a second. And it'll be moistening here. Hang on a sec. How do we do this so you can see it? Hang on a sec. We've got what we call our mise bucket. It's a goat hair brush. Beautiful, beautiful goat hair brush. It's not beautiful by old standards, but it'll do for us. This is from Miyagawa-san down the street here. They're pretty much one of the last brush makers here in Tokyo. And I'm going to slather on some water. I don't know. It's exactly the same thing we saw last week. I really should have been a bit more careful. I should have done this yesterday afternoon first, and then I should have come back last night to confirm that it was moist enough. So how are we going to do this so we can see? What if I switch around? If I put the dry stack over here, hang on a sec. Let's do that. Okay, I'll put the dry stack over there. And this is the new stack that's going to be moistened, so you can see what I'm doing. And the paper 2x2. let's do it like this. So the paper's been moistened, but it's not moist enough, so we just need a touch up. So we're not splashing tons of water on this here. Get this all so you can see it. Okay, fair enough. Good, good, good. Not enough for a double. Hopefully, like just a touch. So same pattern, there's lots of newspaper in here. So I've got a full sheet of newspaper. This is 2 sheets. It's 1 and 2. So it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see 4 things here. So there's 4, how would you describe it? 4 sheets of newspaper. So there's more bulk of newspaper in this stack today than there is of printing paper. And once we're up and running on a multicolored print, that really helps keep the moisture in the paper steady. If you've got not too much newspaper and lots of printing paper, then if you put too much moisture in the sky or something, it gets overloaded. But if there's way more newsprint, then that really helps. It's kind of like a flywheel. Is that the right expression to use? It's normal tap water, but it's filtered. Absolutely. We've got rust in these pipes and stuff like that. So it's tap water, but it's run through a really strict, I forget the name, it's some Swedish thing, I don't know. We just replaced it. It's been here, Aoyama-san put it up a few years ago, and it's the kind that you pull out the whole unit and put it back in. Even the wiring, not the wiring, the pipes they changed. So he pulled the whole thing out and replaced it just last week. And what we're worried about is minerals, like dabs, bits of iron, because they will kill us. We've had that experience with the Great Wave years ago. We didn't know it, but in the water there were iron particles, and it turned out that after we inspected and shipped the print, months after, the rust started to form inside the print. You could use some, just buy bottled water from although I guess, I don't know, some of the bottled water is like natural spring water, and maybe that's heavy mineral, I don't know. Our number one consideration is rust, absolutely. paper here is all going in the same orientation, face up. And it'll be flipped for printing. Of course, I want the paper face down as it comes across the printing bench. So it's all staying in the same orientation, face up at this point. Everybody asks about the newsprint, why doesn't it transfer? And I don't have any scientific answer for you, only simply Japanese newsprint doesn't do that. And that might actually not be such sort of good news, because what they're doing is they're obviously using high quality, super quality printing inks and stuff. None of this sort of soy-based things that more ecologically friendly societies are trying to do, And maybe those soy inks and stuff like that, they smear more, they break down easier, stuff like this. I don't know. So Japan has prioritized, I'm saying Japan as a commercial thing, as a corporate thing, Japan has prioritized fine quality printing and longevity over an ecological approach to this. So this may not be actually the thing everybody wants to hear, but the other part of it is that I was surprised about this when I first got here. The Japanese newspapers, the physical paper that they're printed on, is a much higher quality than what I had been used to, and this was 35 years ago. And part of it is the ethic here: make things nice, make them quality. But part of it also, remember, a Japanese newspaper, they're printing kanji lettering. It's not A, B, C, big block letters. And many kanji are really, really fine. They got many, 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 many strokes. So the requirement for a Japanese newspaper, it has to have a smoother, more calendared, high-quality surface, and the printing has to be more, refined, simply because of the demands of the scale of the stuff. So this could be part of it, the kind of soft kind of paper that might be used overseas, and the soy inks and stuff may simply not be capable of making the fine, delicate lines that you need when you're printing kanji. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Having said that, the one I'm using here is what we call here Eiji Shimbun. It's an English newspaper that's published here in Tokyo. So the paper is Tokyo-style paper. The printing is done on a Japanese printing press, but the content here, this is a photographically reproduced content from the Washington Post. But yeah, I think that's it actually. The requirement is much stronger, not culturally, actually physically. The interesting comparison would be with the Chinese newspaper. What are the newspapers like in Beijing? They're also printing very fine, delicate kanji. We might expect, for cultural reasons, you might expect a rougher approach, and I don't know, I'd be very curious. Is there a difference between Chinese and Japanese newspapers physically? Those are face up, as I said, so it's got to go now face down, and let's switch them back. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Well, I know nothing about the quality of the Washington Post over in Washington. I don't know. So anyway. Okay, let's do this. I think we're okay to go. I think we're okay to go. Meanwhile, the block's all dry, block's all dry, block's all dry. We had it all nicely warmed up too. All this stuff's slidable, eh? I know the things slide out of here. You can put them at whatever angle you want. The whole printing bench itself slides. It's on a track on the floor here. We can push this in and push it out. And my seat also slides in and out. And I'm standing now in, that's the actual floor below me that I'm standing on. So if this was a big, heavy block for printing, we'd be doing it like this. I'd have this set at the right size for pulling it out here, and I would then, if I was doing really hard work, I'd push this forward, get under here, and this would be underneath my guts here. So there's no pushing outward pressure. Now, today's a light work, it's a light job, so I can be a bit more relaxed. There's some space here, but traditionally, technically, there's no space here. This is right up against your guts, and you're printing over, and it's the weight of your body that is doing most of the work. So I want this visible. And so it won't slide. Okay, while this block gets warmed up here, now it's dry. While it's warmed up, pictures. I went on the boat yesterday. As I said, I walked down to Takeshima, had a coffee there waiting, got back on the boat 10:55, and I was back here by lunchtime, ready to start. I took some pictures, and I need some advice here. I don't remember exactly what we're going to see here. Let me pop this up. I was sitting on I was at the back seat of the boat here, down on the back seat of this is a long flat ferry. This is the Tokyo, we talked about it the other day, the show, Tokyo Mizube line. And this is looking southward. That's Kachidoki Bridge just behind me. And that's the bridge that used to open. It doesn't open anymore because there's no commercial shipping coming up and down here. But there's the middle part is the line. And it turned out that this was high tide yesterday. And I hadn't known that blah, blah, how high it was. So as we sat there, that bridge went over right above. But the next bridge, here we are. This is looking forward. I went upstairs to the top of the boat. And looking forward to the next bridge. And I don't remember which one this is. Is this Eitai Bridge? This is Eitai Bridge. And it gets closer and closer. As we get closer, I'm thinking, what's happening here? And there's this announcement. There's something, and I'm not really listening. And I'm like, just as we get to this point or whatever, there's a frantic something on the stairs. And one of the guys is running upstairs. And he's like, get down, get down, get down. And the thing yesterday, I was the only person on this boat. So they're all sitting in their coffee room. They're just like not doing whatever, Normally I think they've got a routine. They come up here whenever it's getting close to the bridge. It's okay, everybody, please get ready, please duck down. And they had left me alone. They know I'm a regular, whatever. So just about now, he is just coming to the top of the stairs saying, for Christ's sake, get down. You can see I've now ducked down to the level of that railing. If I go back to the previous picture, here I'm standing up. And now you got to duck down. You got to get yourself below that railing. And they're serious. This is serious. If you stood up here, you are going to just get decapitated. Absolutely decapitated. So we go under this thing. Look at this. And this boat is just going full speed ahead. This is boom, full speed ahead. So we get under there, and I don't have a real phone. I can't take selfies and stuff. So what I got my clamshell phone. I turned the clamshell phone backwards and tried to shoot the bridge as it disappeared behind me. Here we go underneath. So we're still under this thing. Then I turned the phone backwards. Talk about a hair-raising experience. And it was windy. So, but those are low. Those are really, really low. And like I said, normally these things are crowded. And then they've got a routine, of course. The guy comes upstairs and he says, okay, everybody get ready. And then they all duck down. It's all good fun. Everybody ducks down behind this. These guys left me alone because he assumes I knew what was going on. And I did know what was going on. But I guess I stayed standing up taking pictures a bit too long and he got nervous. They can see me on the camera from downstairs. And he got nervous and came running upstairs, blah, 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 blah. So, this was yesterday, so it's the same view. Windy. Here, I was supposed to keep the block moist. I was the only one on that boat. It's like April 21st, middle of the giant tourist season, in one of the biggest tourist cities in the world, on one of the biggest tourist attractions in the city. And I'm the only person on that boat yesterday at that one. I feel sad, the hotels, the tourist stuff. I mean, same thing. Our shop is closed as well, so whatever, But they've got bills, they've got boats to run. There's three craft running up and down. There's the Cosmos, the Sakura, and the Ajisai. I become I can't say friendly because they don't talk in a friendly way, but I become, what's the word? They know me now. I go back and forth each week 3 or 4 times there. Got my new exercise routine, So. And the boat was empty, just absolutely empty. When Golden Week rolls around, I don't know what to say, Cameron, and I've heard both. They've done, the Yomiuri newspaper that I read has done polls about this, and the consensus is this: out in the countryside, people who would normally be maybe traveling to come into Tokyo or Osaka, those people are staying put. Then what will be happening, clearly it happens here every night, is the young people here in Tokyo, they're just going to be up and buzzing and all over the place. So the Disneylands or whatever are going to be busy. The bars are going to be busy. But I think the trains and hotels are probably not going to be. But who knows, we'll see. None of it affects us. We are closed, shut tight, just going to sit and work. Kamedo Tenjin. Yeah, remind me, John, whatever. It's close. It's well within the range of my walks. Nintendo Land, I think they're closing it, right? Didn't it close yesterday? It had just opened a month or so ago, and Osaka has now moved into a high level of emergency, so I believe the Nintendo place has closed down again. Not quite sure. Do the Japanese miss foreigners? They're happy not to have them. So what can I say? I can't. Anybody who's in the tourism business, of course, they're in desperate conditions. Hotels are going bankrupt. Your Mr. and Mrs. Suzuki, your casual Japanese people, are probably happier that their city is less overrun with foreigners. Same as Venice or Paris or Kyoto, all these things. There's been a real heavy burden for tourism. So it's both. It depends who you talk to. Davis, in both situations, I'm really enjoying this peaceful, empty city, but my business has been devastated. So whatever, both things are true, It's a very interesting. You read stories about this in Venice and stuff, and they are now trying to prepare for the future. They don't want to go back to the way it was before. They want the tourism, they want the revenue, they want, to their economy to work, but nobody wants that insane situation we've had in recent years in the prime destinations. Someone's asking about studio space. I know absolutely nothing about that whatsoever. I'm sorry. I have no knowledge. Google must be your friend there. There's lots of foreign groups in Tokyo, people giving advice about living in Tokyo, stuff like this. I'm sorry, I know nothing about that. Here we are up and running again. Here we go. For those of you who haven't seen this before, there's one more color coming. There will be a black highlight on her head. I don't have a sample of the finished print, but it's on our website, so the paper is moistened. Yes, the paper was moistened last night, and it was touch up just a few minutes ago. If you just joined us here, it turned out that the paper was a bit too dry, and I had to re-moisten it a little bit. After one color, not deep enough. We're just going to do the whole thing. So doubles the work here, but much better result. Yes, this could technically be done with one impression. Put lots of pigment and paste on it if the paper was really, really soft, and print really with good pressure. The risk here, though, is because of the fine lines, all the fine cutout lines, we need lots of paste to make the deep impression, but lots of paste is really difficult to keep out of the fine lines. So I'm doing it with a weaker mix twice, and that keeps these lines clear of the paste. It's double the time, but it's going to reduce the number of spoiled copies, absolutely. I think actually I'm getting a bit too heavy on the paste here, I think. The start to finish video, yes. Stuff we do, that you don't know when it's happening, but it's stuff that changes your life, Making that video has literally changed our lives, myself and Cameron. It's one of the main things that has increased the volume of business here at Mocha Hong Kong. We had no idea. We just turned the camera on. Should we try this? I said it was going to take 90 minutes, I think. I think at the beginning of that video I said, it's going to be a little bit long one. It'll be 90 minutes or something, I said. I can't remember exactly. Turned out to be 3 hours. And it just keeps on rolling and rolling and rolling. Tens of thousands of people each week watch that thing. It's just crazy. 10,000 of people each week. Well, lots of them are asleep. They put the YouTube on to give them sleepy stuff. So I get that not everybody is watching that to learn how to make woodblock prints. Lots of people sleep through that video. But YouTube doesn't care. Tens of thousands of views a week and no ads. I don't know. I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. But the amount of money now that we're leaving on the table is getting kind of scary, I think, We're running something like, overall, we're running like 40,000 views per week on the YouTube channel now, and no ads on any of it. Patreon would be an alternative to ads, and in fact, that's exactly what we are doing. We have done that. We did that 4 years ago. We started a Patreon campaign asking us and giving us the reason to help support the video making, etc., and that's working very, very well. In fact, I've learned I shouldn't talk about that here, because every time I mention it, more people sign up. I don't think it's peanuts compared to YouTube. Patreon is doing very, very, very well for us. It has sort of saved our life this year. It originally started to help bring Cameron on board. It did that very well. But in this last year, Patreon has saved my ass. It's saved our life. We're paying full rent on the shop downstairs. And because the Patreon support is there, this hasn't crippled our business. We're able to hunker down, keep going, keep making prints, and without worrying about the fact that, oh my God, the rent. So the Patreons have got us over that hump and have done that this year. Again, never would have foreseen that, never would have guessed it. And what John has mentioned, this is funny, if I hadn't started Mokohankan, about 10 years ago I started this idea of hiring younger people and working with printers and carvers, did the Kickstarter with Jed Henry, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. If I hadn't done that, and I was of two minds 10 years ago. If I hadn't done that, and then the era of YouTube and Patreon came along, Dave would have done those things from his workshop, and I would now be a single sole craftsman in that workshop, making videos, I guess, with a Patreon in the back. It would be a very, very different life. So someone's going to ask about that, the YouTube forced advertising. We're just waiting. We're waiting for the shoe to drop. We have been told it's coming, or we read on their blogs that it's coming, but we've seen nothing yet. Well, again, someone's saying, we wish you could subscribe on Twitch to contribute. At the moment, we're not really sort of asking for contributions. We've got a business going. We're making prints, we're selling them, people are enjoying the value of the thing we bring to society. Cameron is no longer sort of getting paid by the Patreon, he's getting paid by the revenue from the work he's doing. He's helping make us make prints. He gets compensated. We all get compensated that way now. So we're not sort of asking for donations. We're just, as I said, the thing the Patreon is really helping with us now is the rent problem, and then the thing that we can't run from our normal revenue, the future projects. The money we've poured into the upcoming tool business, for example, no revenue at all for a long time, and we spent a fortune on it. The money for finding our wood blocks, we are well in the red on wood blocks. We can never afford to buy the wood without that kind of support. So the Patreon thing is helping in those things, Can I hold the block up? Is there questions about the block? We've got the top surface here that's untouched, and then what you see as lines here, they are carved out of the wood. You can maybe see it this way to show. So I'm asking print parties. As far as I can see, there are no print parties. I think the print parties are history. We were struggling with them when we were doing them. They were great fun. They were fabulous, fabulous fun and entertainment. And they were destroying us. I was losing staff. Nobody wanted to do them. It was killing us. We sort of overdid it. We made the entertainment value of the thing. It was like a theater show. And we just could not keep it up. I mean, people on Broadway, whatever, they have understudies, they take turns, they do this. We were just running show after show after show after show after show. And people have said, yeah, do it again, but don't do it with such intensity. Just, let people play with the thing. And I do not want to do that. The benefit of those print parties is people walked out of there with a really, really good-looking print. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I made this. But to do that required an investment of energy from us that was just unsustainable. So I'm sorry, I think it's pretty much decided. Their history, So this is the new people here, that block you saw a moment ago. This is a mirror image of the block. The high areas on the wood have the pigment, and that gets pressed into the paper. That's the back side. That's the front side. more room for a large class, it would be a different concept. And we didn't really want to run classes. There is a need out there for training and for teaching printing. I get that. That's another thing. But the print parties weren't intended to be that. They were for normal people, not people who are going to become printmakers. They were for normal people, to bring them into our world, to give them feel for it, and to have them walk away with something that they really had pride in making. Even though they were a cold stone beginner, 90 minutes later, or whatever, 60 minutes later, they had a beautiful print. And it worked so well, but the energy was just, I'm sorry, we could not keep it. Okay, question. Whoa. Questions. Just a minute. Hang on. What are my thoughts on Terry McKenna? Super nice guy. Of course. He's doing a really super job. He's up here in Karuizawa teaching, printing. He's got a new book coming up, and we will have news about that. Moko Hong Kong will have news about that as soon as Terry's ready with it. Terry is doing it. He's not one of those guys that talks about it. Terry talks about it, and he does it. You got to see his new book. There's 3 books coming any day now. Terry, if you're listening, get back to work on the PDFs. Terry dropped by here, it would be what, 3 weeks ago? 2 or 3 weeks ago. He dropped in on one of his visits to Tokyo. How's our time? Okay. Could I use this block to print a red color? At this point, not really. I know if we poured red all over it, we would get a red. It would have a bit of muddiness in it. I couldn't do anything like print a pink on it. This block has now been, this is cooked. We've made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies. That blue-green pigment has soaked right down well into the wood. If we planed this, took off say 2 millimeters, you would still see green and blue in there. So no, this block is a green block. If we had had the idea from the beginning that we want to maintain the ability to print different colors, we would have treated it. Maybe we would have put a thin layer of glue on top. I'm not really quite sure because we don't do that ourselves. But it would have been possible. Seal it a bit. Well, having said that, I learned something, or I partly learned something a couple of weeks ago. Printer Mitamura-san was here. He's going to have some new prints in our shop coming up soon. He's a local printer, an older guy, and he's been making reproductions of some Hokusai designs. They're in the flea market catalog. And he came to me a few weeks ago. He said, I got an idea here. I'm not sure if it's of interest to you or not. Tell me what you think about it. And he had access to some old wood blocks for printing chiogami, the decorative patterned paper. And he showed me some test prints that he had made from these blocks. And I'm like, get those done and get them over here right away. We will put these in the shop. They're wood blocks with carved patterns in them, and the paper was printed on them, and then customers would cut it up and do, decoupage and stuff like this with it. Anyway, he's got these things. And he said something interesting. His father, who had had this business, taught him one day how to work with a wood block that's been printed with one strong color and how to get the color out of it so that you can print another color. And I'm like, you can't really do that. And he says, well, actually, my father showed me this way to do this. And he explained this to us. And Aoyama-san made all these notes. I didn't really understand a lot of what he was saying. It'll be coming. We were going to talk about this once this chiogami is up and running. It's something to do with the block gets soaked. I don't remember. There's soaking involved. There's wood ash, lye. You make some kind of lye from wood ash, and the block gets soaked in this, wiped, soaked in it again. And I guess this don't do this until I get some real instructions about it. But there is a way to use some kind of wood ash lye, and apparently it pulls the pigment out of those blocks. And he's got to repeat and rinse, repeat and rinse, repeat and rinse. And after that's been done X times with a proper formulation, you got a brand new clean block ready to print with something else. And my ears were like, oh, beep, 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 give me this news. So I understand, wrote it all down, and we will be bringing a video or blog post or something to talk about this later on. Leeches, I'm not sure if L-E-E-C-H or L-E-A-C-H, leeching. What's the right spelling here? I don't know. Anyway, so at the moment it's just a tease. I'm sorry, I don't know the instructions, but there was instructions, and he had with him that day, he had 2 pieces of chiogami. One was like light pink, and one was like deep green, and they were printed from the same piece of wood. Yeah, I think it's E.A. Leach, but I'll be willing to be corrected. I don't know. In these days of auto spell check, everything is just blown to hell anyway, so whatever, you know. I got trapped the other day. It was an email to Cameron or somebody. I got trapped by the spell check. And I typed N-O blah, 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 and there's these 2 words, N-O-T and N-O-W. And the spell check must have just grabbed one, and it said, I am now ready to proceed. I am not ready to proceed. And it's like, thanks, spell check. $602 pairs of eyes on me. It's so good. Am I supposed to get nervous? This is just the daily job, so whatever. Are 602 people really interested in watching this? I don't know. Whatever. Again, for the newcomers here, here's the print. We're just doing this. There's going to be a second color on it. There will be a black on the hair area. And you can see some of you, we talked about this earlier at the beginning. See this little white faint ghost that's coming up here now? That's a hard area on the block. The block has some hard spots. One of those is right here. Try to get the light. It's a hard spot here. And that's reflected in a weaker spot in the pigment. Am I going to reprint the Sparrows print? I don't have anything to think about that right now. You say reprinted, but I thought we had some available. I don't know. Why would it need to be reprinted? I thought there was some. Is it out of stock? Out of stock. Soka. I don't know about that. I think there's a few copies in the Asakusa stock downstairs. Remind me to ask Cameron, or if Cameron's still here. One impression too light. The brush is easy to clean, yeah, it's all just soap and water. There's just light powder pigment here where there's no glue involved in this thing here today. It's just powder pigment and water, and as long as I catch it before it gets hard and dense, just take it under the tap and run it under the water. Sugu-san does it differently. She throws her brushes in a bucket of water, totally moistens them. I don't like the wood to become wet. Different printers have different ways of doing that. Vaccine lottery, it's next Monday for me. I got some numbers. Yesterday's newspaper had some more numbers for me. I clipped this because where is it? The numbers in yesterday's newspaper. Here we are. The people in Japan over 65 years or older, they started getting their vaccinations Monday. Nani, today's Thursday, so not the previous Monday, but the Monday before that, they started vaccinating people 65 or over. And they are now, according to yesterday's newspaper, they are now up to 19,000 people vaccinated. Wow! After nearly 2 weeks of work, a week and a half of work, they're up to that number. This country, this country, this country. That's not counting the doctors. They've done the doctors and nurses, most of them. And I think that's something like 2 million. I don't know the number on that. It's 1 million point something. The medical staff, they gave priority to the medical staff, which I have no problem with. Do the medical people first, whatever, bingo. And I guess they have, I suppose they've been mostly done. And now, starting Monday, I said 10 days ago, they've started the general population, starting with the over 65s, my group. They've started with the seniors. And so far, they've got, what was the number I said? 16,000, 19,000? I forget. Wonderful country, but sometimes an embarrassment. So. Yeah, I wasn't ignoring the medical staff. I mean, but still, remember, this is now April. I mean, think the first shipments arrived somewhere in February. We saw the picture in the newspaper. The airplanes had arrived from Belgium, I think it was. This was in February when the first group of vaccines arrived. The other issue that's coming up for Japan now too is this. The only vaccine approved for us so far is the Pfizer one. The other two, the Moderna and the AstraZeneca, are not yet approved. They are in the approval process at the moment. And because of the questions overseas, the blood clots, blah, 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 I don't know much about that, but whatever. But because of that, the regulators here are going to really be going slowly on approving that AstraZeneca. It may make it through the approval or not, I don't know, whatever. But because of the current question marks about that, it's going to be a long time. And that's the one the government here has bet on. They've made a deal. In fact, it's already being made here. The large pharmaceutical company here who has manufacturing capabilities but not design. They've taken the seed or the extract or whatever for the AstraZeneca stuff, and it's already over here, and they're doing the thing to multiply it and produce the vaccines. They're in their little vials, racked up, waiting for the approval. And that's the Japanese government's bet, is for local manufacture. They chose the AstraZeneca one. I guess it's the one that they had the technical capabilities to make. And now, because of all those questions overseas, the regulators here, knowing these bajillions of vials are already sitting here waiting, they're now, who's going to put their stamp on that and say, okay. And it's going to come down to some individual people in the office there that does the regulation. And there's a guy sitting there, like the head of that little department, and he's like, his Hanko seal is there, and there's all this, how would you like that job? How's our time? We're okay, 9:13. So okay. We have a show and tell. It's a single thing. It maybe won't take a full 15 minutes. Give me 10 minutes for the show and tell today. So push my buzzer at around 9:20. Yeah, I myself have no trouble with the risk on that at all. If I was offered tomorrow the AstraZeneca vaccine, I would happily take it, absolutely. You're talking about the risk calculations, it's infinitesimal, so I would happily take it. I'm not sitting here spreading rumors about a vaccine. Sorry, that's not the idea here. I would happily take any one of those vaccines, or any one of those three major vaccines that have been tested. But it looks like here in Japan, the one moving forward, the one that I will be in my lottery for next Monday, that will be the Pfizer, absolutely. Why not use the metal cover for the registration marks? I would if I had one, and whatever. Suga-san's got one, and it's in her drawer, and I don't want to touch her stuff. And remember, this is not my printing bench. I have none of my tools here. This is just Dave sitting down at the wrong-handed bench, trying to fill in and get something done. This is not my normal environment at all. I have my normal tools are not here, my own baron, my brushes. This is right-handed. It's embarrassing to sit here demonstrating the classical techniques of Japanese printmaking and demonstrating them wrong. But whatever, I gotta get stuff done here. That paper was a tad short. That one's a tad short. How long will it take for them to dry? Well, just a few minutes, actually. Of course, that depends on the environment. So once they're done, there's one more color still to go, but once they're done, as I'm doing the second color, what I will do with those prints is I won't put them under the plastic here. I will just throw them on top, and they will just scatter on top, and they will dry in the air. I can't let them completely dry because they will get, wavy. So they'll dry like 80%, then we put them in the heavy boards where they are pressed flat. Your local art museum has a Hokusai print that is capital letters not on display. So do I. In fact, that's what we're looking at today. Original Hokusai. Not a copy, original Hokusai. They're all over the place. Speaking of which, I guess let's do it. Let's have a look. Okay, signing off here. There's a print so far. Okay, let's change gears. Let's change gears. What's the best way to do this? Again, earthquake. I'm going to move the camera around a little bit so it points on the bench here. Show and tell. Let me move the camera. Earthquake coming. Cables, cables, cables. Okay, as teased a few minutes ago here, we have an original Hokusai, not a print. We have whatever happened to that recovered Hasui print you made, rediscovered Hasui print you made. I'm not quite sure what story you're talking about there. Some of that is a bit secret and some of it is not. Okay, we have here this. This is an original book. It's from, I think, the 1840s. I'm not sure the exact date. In fact, you guys can help me do some crowdsourcing here. It's Hokusai Gafu Chushu Zen. I know Hokusai is the name of the designer. Hokusai Gafu is the name of the book. G-A-F-U in normal English, English approach, Gafu. And that book was published in different forms and in different shapes over different years. This is dating from about the 1840s. And what you're seeing here is an unrestored, normal book that was published in, I forget exactly, 1847 or 1848, somewhere about there. Now, the book was published in 1847 or 1848. The particular copy we're looking at, we don't know, because when books were published, they had the date and stuff printed in the colophon, but that was carved into the blocks. So as they are making the book over the next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, the same date is still printed there. So all we know is this book was published in about 1847 or whatever it was I said, but this particular sheet of paper could date from that year or anywhere up to 5 or 10 or so years in the future. The blocks would have then just been worn out and just tossed aside. Tom's got it, Hokusai Gafu 1847. With qualification, remember there's Gafu, this is the middle volume, but it's also marked as Zen, which means a complete set. So this is a little bit unsure. Let's have a look through. This, what you're seeing here now then is exactly what it would have seemed to somebody in 1847, except that the string has been, the string has died and it's waiting for me to retie it with a new string. The viewers back then would have done the same thing. The strings break really, really easily and they're just retied all the time. And everything you see here, all the lettering and the pictures and the colors, is done from wood blocks in exactly the same way that you've seen me do over the past few minutes. And this is on much, much thinner paper than the printmaking you just saw me doing. In fact, if we pull up one sheet of this page 1, if you want to call it that, and page 2, they are on the same sheet of paper. Again, we saw this last week in another book we looked at. So if I open this carefully, what you're looking at, that is the sheet of paper that was on the printmaker's bench. And after he made the finished print, then the people in the back room folded it in half and they sewed them all at the back. So each side of a different picture is done on different wood blocks. Hokusai will not have drawn the calligraphy of this. Remember, Hokusai never touched this object at all. Hokusai, the name we know as Hokusai, did sketches and maybe touched them up a little bit. For something like this, he would do the pattern once and send it in. And in the publisher's house, people would draw it out, trace it, put the border lines on, finish it off, send it to the carver. Carvers would carve, printers would print. So Hokusai never touched the thing we're looking at here. He simply designed it. It's like Stephen King writes a book, but you buy it in the bookstore. He didn't touch that thing. It's exactly the same thing. Hokusai was the designer. Craftsman made it. And this is a very, very nice copy. I'm very happy to have got this. I got it from a dealer in Italy some years ago. This was maybe even before, I don't know, no idea. Late 1990s, I think, we got it. And it's a very nicely preserved copy. I don't know the derivation and the interest of all the individual content here. A lot of this is Chinese legends being depicted here, and I just don't know the background. I'm sorry. There's a crane, a famous Thai fish. I don't know the background to all the image stories. Again, there's so many. I should look up some of these things and learn some of these things, but it's just too much. My interest in these objects is the physical books, the physical paper. I just cannot learn all the kabuki plays, the Chinese legends. I'm sorry, just I don't know. There's clearly some kind of New Year thing going on here. This guy is on an old kame, a turtle. There is a crane, and there is the Thai, the sea bream, all symbols of felicitation and Happy New Year. And again, it was a single picture, but carved on 2 different wood blocks, printed at different times. So the printers had to make sure they had to line up their colors. This is 1840s. This is just at the very early stage. Prussian blue might have been here by then or might not. I don't know. Where have we seen this one before? Those of you who are familiar with our work, where have we seen this before? And if you've got one of those prints, you might recognize now. John, have you got yours handy? If it's within reach, go and grab it. Take a look at how well we carved this bridge. So I've mined this book. As we flip through this over the next few minutes, you're going to see pictures that we have published here at Mokuhankan. These things are out of copyright. This is from 1847. There's no copyright. Everybody can use it. And we have done so ourselves. We have used a number of these pictures. Here's one. It's coming apart. You can see now what's happening here. This sheet of paper is actually tearing. There's a little bit left at the top. I got to be really careful not to tear it open. But these two were, as I said, the same sheet of paper, but it's become torn inside. That allows us to see the back. And now you see why it's doubled paper. There's no way you could print this on both sides of a sheet of paper. The pages have to be doubled. There's no way. And you can also see here too something else. There's an insert sheet that's been tucked inside to help when you're looking at one page, to help show not so much showing through from the previous side. No, there's no bridge there. We took it out. Sorry, Hokusai, we took it out. As to what the book is or what it's for, it's a mix. As I said, there's Chinese legends, there's landscapes, there's floral stuff. Who would buy it? Why would they buy it? What would they do when they got it home? People that went to the bookstore and picked this up, They'd take it home and sit there. And I find it very difficult to understand how those people consumed this object. It was 1840s. There's no photography. In fact, any given person, as you walk around town and as you do your daily life, you don't actually see pictures. These days for us, there's photography and posters and newspapers and photographs and signboards. Images are in front of us all day long. But if you're walking around Edo in 1847, you're not going to see imagery. You're not going to see anything. So something like as you go in a bookstore and you pick up this object and you open this thing, and there in front of your eyes it's like magic. There's like birds in there. I mean, people knew they weren't birds, but there was no other way to see the shapes of things. Oh, photography, whatever, they're experimenting in Paris with photography, that's fine. But for a typical person walking around Edo in 1847, they don't see any images. Rich guys, rich families, they've got a warehouse, they've got scrolls that have been painted. The shogun has got a special anteroom with a series of screens that are painted. Some temple may be up on the roof of the temple, something is painted there. But for most people, day by day, they don't see any pictures. So I'm trying to put myself in their mind. You open this, and there's no story. You don't page turn. There's no plot. You open this, and I guess you drink it in, every bit of it. They know what's going on. It's sumo, the people watching, the referee. They must have spent a long, long, long time looking at these things. And we've lost that because we see so much stuff, it's not even in any way special to us anymore. Turn it, look at it, flip the page, turn it, look at it, flip the page. I don't know what the thinking was in 1847. I'm just trying to imagine. Who bought this book? Why did they buy this book? And how did they use it? The storybooks I get, we looked at the storybook last week. There's text, there's a story. And with one bound, he was by her side. He pulled the dagger from, there's something going on. But a book like this, there's no story. And there's not one word in it. Here we are. Here's one that's come apart over the time. This one is separated. Would they make up stories and tell things? I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's a question of you jump into the picture. It sort of sounds a bit silly to say that. They would, that last one with the sumo. Just remember, they've never seen sumo on TV, and maybe many, many people in Edo, they've never had a chance to actually get in there and see it. It's too expensive or whatever. So this is maybe their only experience. Oh, that's what it's like. Look at those guys. Wow, that must be so cool. We had grasses, we had birds, we have fish. This is going to be historical warriors, I guess, a historical episode that maybe they would know from being told the story. That would be cool if you know the story. You've heard about the Heike Monogatari or something like this, but you've only heard it in words. Then you see a picture, and there's the guy. I don't know the story, of course. Whatever. Somebody's in the cave with his sword. The guy is attacking. The denouement is about to happen. There's action here. Those I get. The rest of them are just quiet scenes. Hokusai for the carver, We've got to carve every one of these little dots. Chut, 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 chut. Every one of these dots. Chut, 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 chut. This is pre-Yoshitoshi, pre-Kuniyoshi. This is Hokusai or crabs. And we're moving into that territory again. When ukiyo-e artists tried to deal with real living animals, I don't know how much I trust. The whole book is 3 tones. The show? There's 4. It's the key block lines in black. Then there's a faint gray to give some texture and body. Then there's a blue and a pink. And this one might make sense because the blue is supposed to represent water. But when we looked at those other images where there's water, but when there was no water, the blue just appears as a color. So it's gray, black, blue. This one, they've left the blue off. Favorite type of stuff for Hokusai, just people doing stuff. This is his main theme, if anything. Just people doing things. We met this man previously to show, a mendicant priest, traveling priest with his shakuhachi, not a sword, and his basket hat. We saw this type of person just the other day. Was the coloring more intense? No, I think this. You mean has it faded a bit? That's a good question because it's what is this? 1847. So this is 180 years old. I assume some fading, but remember, books sit there closed. Nobody puts the book on the frame and holds and hangs it on the wall. So I'm thinking we're looking at pretty much what it was the original. The paper would have been a brighter, cleaner white. Absolutely, the paper is toned over 180 years. So it's definitely got an attractiveness. It would have been brighter, whiter, cleaner, and it's definitely more, whatever. Would these be affordable? Yes, I don't know the number, but this is common stuff. The book we showed the other day with the story, the melodramatic story, those are way cheaper than this. This is more like a coffee table book. So if you could afford a coffee table book in this society, you would have been able to buy this. Those cheap melodrama stories, they were just pennies. Just like, it's the same thing. A paperback book here, which you would read and toss, that was the melodrama story we saw the other day. This is more like a coffee table book of its era. We've done this too. We've stolen this and reproduced this one as well. There's some kind of Buddhist reference here. I don't know. I'm sorry again. This is Fudo. There's a Buddhist reference happening here. I think something to do with the god of the underworld, I think. I don't know what the story that's being depicted here. The usual Hokusai frantic activity, the wonderful line drawing. I think what we have here are 2 woodcutters, or people in the mountains with their axe, woodcutters. We have again some kind of priest, I believe. He's on those high sandals they used to wear. We're in the clouds. I don't know the reference. Another quiet landscape, and we have also stolen this one. I tell you, Hokusai is responsible for a large part of our revenue, not just the Great Wave. These are nice, these are pleasant, just beautiful, beautiful, soft, pleasant pictures. And we have, of course, how are we doing on our horse? This is not so bad. We've seen worse from Hokusai. We've seen better. I presume they're together here. There's the master on his chair. Attendant. I don't think this one is so successful, actually. I don't know. if I'm sitting here flipping through pages on this book. This one I'm going to flip pretty soon, I think. I don't think this is so successful. What's the blue pigment? It's weak Prussian, I think. I think it's light Prussian blue. It's not indigo. When you print blues, we've got these blues that when you print them vividly, they're very different. A deep indigo and a deep Prussian, they're vividly, vividly different. But once you weaken them and put water in, and it's mostly the paper color showing through, once you print your blues lightly, it actually starts almost not to matter what the material is, because there's so little of it left in the paper. This is not indigo. Indigo would be much of a darker, dirtier feel. And we close her off. Actually, because the front cover has come off, this gives us a chance to see a little bit about how these books were actually put together. As I said, you saw the pages were folded. One page, another sheet. You fold them all backwards, stack them all up, and then they would jab. They had a stabber, and they stabbed 4 holes through the whole thing. And these have been done with what's called nakatoji. So this book is actually bound. These sheets are not loose. They're still bound, but the covers come off. And there you can see it. It's string. A piece of washi paper has been rolled into a thin string, poked through these, and tied off on the back. So the middle binding is here, nakatoji in one spot, and down here on another spot. So the basic binding of the book is still in place. Then when that step was finished, they got their covers, 1 and 2 in place, and then they would stab in 1, 2, 3, 4 places, and with a needle and thread tie up the cover. So binding of a Japanese book like this is 2 steps. The nakatoji first, the inner pages, and then put on the covers. The little small books we saw the other day, the melodrama books, they didn't have the nakatoji. The whole thing is just stacked up, and it's done with the outside string binding. But a book of any substance, what did we say, our coffee table book, they're done first, binding the inside, and then separately binding the outside. And these are the original covers from the book. There we go, 1847. I don't have a lot of big treasures. For the most part, the prints we buy and we show on Show and Tell here are Meiji era work, or they will be Showa reproductions, things like this. I don't have a whole lot of original stuff in our collection. I can't afford it. This was a few $100s, and that was about 20 years ago, and this is now more than a few $100s. This is, whatever, I don't know, $500, $600, $700 maybe. It's a beautiful, beautiful, very nice condition. Don't get bothered by the fact there's no string there. That's irrelevant. It's the printing and preservation. There's no mold, beautifully printed, very fine copy. I'm very proud to have this. Okay, there we are. That's it for today. I don't have my mask handy here to put on as I do. I'm alone in the building today. There's no other printers here. So normally I should mask up. That's it. It's a Thursday. I will be back here again 2 more days from now on Saturday. Will I still be doing this? I hope not. I've got so much other work to do it. We might do that, I might do that just to sort of keep good content. I might do the color work today, later this afternoon, and it might be worth just keeping the paper here, coming back Saturday morning and finishing off the other color. I don't know. I'll have to talk to Ome. If they're waiting really desperately for a bunch of copies of this, then I can't wait. I have to ship it out now. So we'll see. So next one is Saturday morning for me, Friday night for you guys. Let's pop up the outside. Thanks again. See you in 2 days from now. This is a nice view, a nice view. We can see all the way to Donkey. I tried at first to put the camera the other direction, but it was impossible. The sunshine was blasting straight into the lens, so away it went. We can see the garbage truck there. See, partway down on the left-hand side, there's a truck poking out from the side street. I forgot to put out my cans and bottles. He's just picking up the bottles and cans there, or the cardboard. New York Chicken, I haven't seen her. No, I haven't seen her since the beginning of the last lockdown. If she comes back, I'd be happy to have her here, but I haven't heard from her. Okay, I gotta get to work, so signing off. Thanks very much for watching. I've enjoyed this today. See you next time. Bye for now.